Hi students, this is Naina ma'am here and welcome back to Management Process and Practices video class. And today our evolution theory is Hawthorne experiment. Hawthorne experiment is today's topic and we shall start. Okay, see, coming to the Hawthorne experiment, it is all about the theory which was commenced or which got its origination at the middlemost age. Okay, see, Hawthorne experiment is all about being by Elton Mayo. Okay, Hawthorne experiment is done and it is experimented by Elton Mayo. Okay, in or at Western Electric Company, and their aim is very simple. It was all about to establish the relationship between physical production or physical factors and production. Physical and production means they want to know that whether the productivity is influenced by any other physical factors. So in order to make sure that there is no impact of physical factors on productivity, or whether there is actually the impact does. In order to know this, they moved with this Hawthorne experiment. Andre productivity in the sense employees work ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಅಂದರೆ ಇರುವಂಥ ಫ್ಯಾಕ್ಟರ್ಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ means is there any impact on that? ಯಾವುದಾದ್ರೂ ಫ್ಯಾಕ್ಟರು ಅದ್ರ ಮೇಲೆ ಇಂಪ್ಯಾಕ್ಟ್ ಆಗುತ್ತಾ? In order to get to know with this, they started this Hawthorne experiment, but they ended up by providing that the relationship between the human social factors and production. They thought with else thing, but finally they ended with stating that there is a relationship between the social factors and productivity in fact. Okay, so we shall start. He moved with the 4. Okay, in the case of Hawthorne experiment, we will go with 4 parts. First part is illumination experiment, which was done between 1924 to 27. Second part is relay assembly test room study 1927 to 1929, mass interview program 1928 to 1930, bank wiring observation room experiment 1932. Okay, so we shall complete at least 2 parts today in this video. Okay, first part is illumination experiment. Very simple, just look at the word illumination. In the sense, is there any relationship between the illumination and the productivity? Okay, andre illumination infrastructure tara andre ventilation, is there any relationship between the lighting and the productivity? So they moved with this in order to know that is there any relationship between the illumination or lighting and the output. But surprisingly, finally they ended up with stating that there is no relationship in fact. For this purpose, what they did, no, they made 2 groups. They made 2 groups, and one group was allowed to work in a well ventilated and light and illuminated area, and one more is denied from all those ventilation, all those facilities. But surprisingly they got to know that there was not at all any relationship between the illumination and productivity. It was surprising enough that they got to know there is not at all a single % of relationship. They thought that there might exist a relationship between the lighting and the productivity, so they do conduct it, but to their surprise they got to know why, because the production of those group who worked in ventilated area and the production of those other group which worked in the absence of lighting being the same. So with this, they realized that there is no relationship between the lighting facilities and the productivity. Okay, so first test is all about illumination experiment, and they finally ended up with stating that there is no consistent relationship between the output of workers and the illumination facility in the factory. So second is all about the relay assembly test room study. In the second, they moved with relay assembly test room study. Very simple. Even under this study also, they made a small 2 groups, of each group consisting of 6 female telephone relay assemblers. Okay, thereafter they made a separate rooms for them. Each group was kept in a separate room, as they made a 2 small groups. No, in each group separate 6 female members were there, and each group was kept as I said in a separate rooms. Time to time, the changes they do has been started noting out. Okay, in the sense they started making changes in the working hours, rest periods, lunch breaks, etc. For the one group, okay, as I said, there were two groups. For one group, they allowed all this. They gave lunch break, they gave rest hours, they gave leisure time, everything, and they even allowed to choose their own time. In the sense, the time was not restricted like 1 to 2, it's a leisure period or it's a lunch period. It was not restricted. In fact, it was allowed to the workers that they should decide which time they need as a leisure and which time they do prefer for the lunch break. Okay, so thereafter they started noting what is the productivity of the group with all these facilities and of the group without all those. You believe it or not, output increased in both the rooms, even though with control and without control. So thereafter they stated that and they concluded that there do exist a social relationship among the workers, in the sense they do participate in the decision making. So because of this, they can see a greater effect on the productivity. In the sense, it doesn't matters actually the working conditions, whatever may be the working condition, no, it doesn't matters. After all, the social factor or social nature or the relationship and coordination that exist among the employees works in increasing the productivity. They finally realized this. Okay, they thought that the offers or the conditions or the physical factors which a particular company will offer might have a bearing on increasing the productivity. But surprisingly, they realized that there is not even any impact of physical factors. Instead, and in fact, social factor got its bearing on increasing the productivity. Why? Because as and when they are made to work in groups, no, they started an interaction, they started a relationship, and finally they started participating in the decision making together, and they increased their productivity. This is all about the relay assembly test room study. First is, as you know, elimination experiment, and next is relay assembly test room study. Okay, so we got further two parts which will be discussed in our coming video classes. So keep in mind, very simple, Hawthorne experiment is all about meant for establishing the relationship between the physical factors and the productivity. They thought that by providing many facilities and many options and many features and good working condition with all those facilities to the employees, they might increase the productivity. But surprisingly, it wasn't. It was not. And because of this, they started moving with the experiments, and they conducted 4 parts. A particular experiment has been conducted in the 4 parts. So in that first part is, as I said, illumination experiment between lighting and productivity, and the next is relay assembly test room study. So this is all about today's video class. We shall go with the further 2 videos, further 1 video for the two of these parts, and we shall wind up this Hawthorne experiment. Hope so today's video was interesting and been understood. If so, any doubts, we shall have a clarification on that in our direct classes. Thank you.